Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to episode 82 of the Dads and Ed podcast. My name is Josh Allen, one of your humble hosts. Super excited to be here tonight. It is finally turning to spring here in the Midwest. The snow is gone. I was outside with a jacket. My kids can be outside. I don't yell at them for not having a jacket. So, things are going well. Beautiful wife, 4 wonderful kids. Tech integration specialist at Lewis Central in Council Bluffs, Iowa. Devin, welcome.
Yeah, the snow's gone for today. The beauty of living in the Midwest is it might be back tomorrow. But for now, you're right. It is much better today. Devin shouting us in Council Bluffs, Iowa. 2 wonderful young ladies that are my daughters. They're 14 and 12, Grace and Claire, and my lovely wife, who also works in Council Bluffs Schools, which is where I currently work as well.
Nice. Well, if you want to get in touch with the show, you can always tweet at us at Devin. Devin, I don't know if you noticed this. We are 66 people away from 1,000 followers on Twitter.
That's that's good.
That's amazing. I remember when we were excited to get 100. Now all of a sudden we're at nearly 1,000.
That's pretty darn cool. I guess I didn't notice that. I haven't really looked at our followers in there, and you're right.
Well, I had to pull.
You even did the math right.
You noticed the pause, though, didn't you? My calculator wasn't quite working as quickly as I thought it was. So yeah, you can tweet us at Dads and Ed. Give us a follow. Share that with other people. We want to, if we can get to 1,000 by next time, how cool? Or 1,000? Okay, 2 weeks. Not sure if we'll pull that off. Maybe 1,000 by the end of this season.
Yeah,
in May,
mid to
late May. 1,000 by we'll start an ad campaign for that. You can use the hashtag anytime, hashtag Dads and Ed. Lots of great stuff being shared there. Former guest Eric Ewald has been sharing some stuff he's getting ready to present, as am I, at the Iowa 1-to-1 conference here in a couple weeks now. If you missed part of the show, check out our website, dadsanded.com.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, leave us a review or a star rating in iTunes and Google Play. A lot of the podcasts that I listen to, let me think. I just listened to a new one, Marty Smith in America, excuse me. Marty Smith, ESPN guy, is doing kind of not necessarily a sports one. He had the country music singer Jason Aldean on for the first show. It was fabulous. But one of the things that those professionals do is say, go leave us a rating. So, hey, go leave us a rating. Leave us a review. If it's nice. If it's not, just don't do it. Mama said, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. So if you don't have anything nice to say, don't leave us a review. Just kidding. You can do whatever you want. iTunes or Google Play, search for Dads and Ed. You can also find us on the Education Podcast Network at edupodcastnetwork.com. Always great podcast there as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it is March Madness time. It is well documented on the show that this time of year is our favorite. Yep. We have baseball starting in a week or 8 days, something like that. We are getting ready to start the Sweet 16 tomorrow night. The Masters is coming up. Tiger is he the favorite still? The other day he was a favorite. I don't know if he still is.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see. Anyway, one of our favorite times of the year. And this year has been a complete disaster for analytical thinking bracket pickers, which it normally is. We did a family bracket online with some extended family. The leaders after the first weekend are my mom, my 5-year-old, and my 7-year-old. I am in 7th place in an 8-person league. Fortunately, my wife somehow is getting obliterated. I'm not sure if she picked based off of favorite animal, but somehow she's doing worse than I am. Devin, you got perfect. Your bracket's still perfect, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's the great thing about this tournament, right? I think we maybe even talked about this last time. I can't remember, but um, talked about people saying how idiot proof the tournament is. It's always compelling, it's always great, but man, it would be nice one year to have a bracket that I could be proud of. You know, one that I would feel comfortable putting up in front of on the show and saying this is my bracket. But once again, alas, it did not happen this year.
Yeah. I picked North Carolina to win,
Yeah.
who did not make it out of the first weekend.
Yes.
The funny part is they played late on Sunday, so in a let's see, how do I not get myself in trouble? In an office pool that not necessarily took place in an office.
Uh-huh.
I was feeling pretty good because we had two Virginia choices. Someone picked Butler for some odd reason. So I was feeling pretty good going into Sunday night until Sunday night happened and they lost to Texas to A&M or something like that.
Right.
It was just crazy. Did you ever think that you would see a 16-over-1 in your lifetime?
I did not. No, I didn't think that we would ever see it. Even the ones that we've seen over time that have been close, only been a handful. I think lots of times you get excited, if that game is within 15 or 20 points in the second half, you start getting kind of excited about it.
It wasn't within 15 points in the last few minutes.
No,
that's the crazy part.
Right. and I do think that's the crazy thing. And, absolutely, I didn't think we would, or that I would see one, but man, how cool was it? It was pretty darn cool to see that happen, and to watch that team and those kids. And maybe we can talk about this in a bit too. But the whole, because we've talked so much on here about social media too, the social media, the Twitter account for Maryland, Baltimore County. How fun was that? What they did over the weekend, not only in that first game with Seth Davis, but also then in the second round. As they were playing Kansas State and the back and forth with Kansas State. So I thought that whole thing was pretty cool too.
Yeah, I am going to tweet out their athletics account here in just a second. I got to give a shout out to the Trojan Tavern in Springfield, Nebraska. My son and one of his buddies went down there to watch the Creighton game, which was a pooper of a game if you're a Creighton fan. And then came home, and I'm watching this with my wife, who doesn't even like basketball, but she understood like what we were watching.
Right.
And I always thought, I thought like before the sun engulfs the earth, I thought at some point a 16 would be to 1, but you never really know like when it's going to come.
Right.
And to have it come against just such a surefire overall number 1 pick, that's what surprised. I always thought it would come against a weak 4.
Yeah.
Like Xavier, it was really debatable as to whether or not they were number 1, but no one else really beat down the door bad enough to really justify it. So I would have always assumed that it would have came against a Virginia or a Xavier type. Never did I think the overall number 1 consent, not even argue. Really, no one can. Villanova maybe can make a case, but Virginia's 31-2.
Yeah, right.
I think is just the craziest part.
Yeah, and I had Virginia winning it all.
Yeah.
So I was glad to see that at least if it was going to happen, where a 16 was going to be to 1, at least it was the one that I picked to win the whole thing, not to lose, but to win the whole thing. But that is the crazy thing about this tournament. Is you're right, they were a consensus number 1. And to go in there and get beat and just get beat soundly was kind of crazy. And as crazy as the tournament is, that's why I was just looking at the one bracket that I filled out in the one pool with some friends. There are 30-something people in there. I'm tied for second, actually.
Wow.
I think I just stopped looking because I was like, there's no way. But still got 3 of my 4 Final Four, and 1, 2, 4 of the final 8. So, not terrible.
Yeah, I'm the only other pool that I did. I am not. So my family one, I'm second to last. The other pool that I did, I am dead last. Yeah,
Yeah,
and by a considerable margin.
yeah.
I
The thing about it is, you're not. It doesn't hurt you too badly when Michigan State and Virginia and Carolina get beat because so many people
right.
had them winning and going kind of far in the tournament. So, the fact that I lose Michigan State, North Carolina, and Virginia in the final eight, in the Elite Eight, it doesn't kill you.
Yeah.
It's just it kind of keeps you right in it.
My pick with my heart and not my head. We have some neighbors who his brother is an assistant at Wright State, and I'd picked. They were at South Dakota State before this. I'd picked South Dakota State before, and but I picked Wright State.
Yeah,
Went with the heart, and that was by far the biggest blowout of all the
right.
games. I mean, even Virginia kept it closer than that with UMBC, but
Yeah, no kidding.
I made a lot of like I picked South Dakota State, I picked San Diego State. Someone got me on that bandwagon. I don't remember who it was. I picked Auburn to be playing this weekend. I almost picked Auburn to go to the championship or to the Final Four. Right. I listened to Charles Barkley, but
that's a problem.
Yeah, I know. It's my own fault. So, okay. So we're going to, I need to redo this. You do not, but we're going to go through and pick who we think is going to make it out of this weekend. Yep. So in the South, you have Kansas State versus Kentucky, and then Loyola Chicago, the darlings of the tournament this year, and their 98-year-old nun mascot, who is a riot.
Amazing. Yep.
Versus Nevada. So out of those four, who will represent the South in the Final Four?
Well, the brain says Kentucky and the heart says Loyola.
Wow, wouldn't that be amazing?
I mean, I think it's Kentucky certainly looks at this, and I think back, if you watch any of the lead up, the shows kind of when the brackets come out, and Calipari so angry about his region, where they had to go, and the teams in his region, and now here it is with Kansas State, Loyola, and Nevada. So, I prefer probably that Kentucky doesn't get out of it, but it sure feels like Kentucky's going to get out of there. But I think the heart just certainly says Loyola, right?
Yeah, that would be pretty fantastic. I don't think anybody really likes Nevada. They've had some clawback wins. If you haven't seen the 98-year-old nun, my favorite line so far is when the reporter asked her. So it's like their chaplain. For those of you that don't know, it's this chaplain, 98-year-old nun. Rolls around in the wheelchair for the most part. The reporter asked her, "What's it like being a national star?" And she goes, "I don't mean to be rude, but it's international."
Yeah.
To have that wherewithal, it's fantastic. I would agree. I think Kentucky's peaking at the right time. They only beat Davidson by 5, but then they beat Buffalo by 20.
Yeah.
Kansas State, just not. I don't know. I can't. Bruce Weber reminds me of a vacuum salesman, and I don't mean that like in a positive way. Like, I'm just not a fan of his at all.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
No one likes Kansas State because they knocked off the other Cinderella, UMBC.
Right.
I'm not. They're in Atlanta, so I don't. Kentucky will have the most fans there, so I'm gonna go Kentucky as well.
I agree.
Let's drop down to the West. We have Florida State, Gonzaga, and then Michigan and Texas A&M. I'm gonna go Gonzaga. I think that they have Michigan's really, really good. They did just squeak by Houston, which I think Houston's a good team. I just think Gonzaga's experience, although that's actually why I picked North Carolina to win it all. I think Gonzaga's experience, I think, will win out. So I don't know.
I have Gonzaga. They were in my original Final Four. So I'm going to stick with them. Michigan just hasn't looked great. Their first round game against Montana, they looked terrible for much of that game. They were behind for much of the Houston game, and again, I agree, Houston's a pretty good team, but I think Gonzaga comes out of that region.
I agree. I last week's guest, Joe Mazza, just said so I'm going to call you out, Joe. Sent me a DM with his bracket. It's a bracket of the playoffs of the NFL, which if you missed last week's show, go listen to it. Joe's kind of a Philly fan.
Yeah.
He also wants to know who stole your vacuum. Is that an inside joke I don't get?
Finally took it to another room. We vacuumed another room in our house. So
is it usually sitting there? Is that why I missed it?
It just sits in whatever room we're vacuuming at the time. No, it was sitting in here last time. I think Bill Little, superfan Bill Little, also mentioned the vacuum last time. Maybe I'll have to bring it back. Maybe it's a great prop. But no, it's I don't know what room it's sitting in now. Probably the cleanest room in the house right now.
If something happens during the show, you may need to bring it back. It's like moving the Buddha. You can't do that. Right. All right, so we both got Gonzaga. We're Gonzaga and Kentucky so far. If we go to, let's go to the East, we have Villanova, West Virginia, a clash of clothing styles there. And then you have Texas Tech and Purdue. Who you got coming out of there?
I have Villanova coming out of there. I think if I could, I think Villanova is the best team of the four. I really like the way West Virginia plays, though. I've always enjoyed press Virginia. Yep. The way they get after you defensively and run the floor. I kind of like the way they play. So I think that could be a fun game. The other one almost doesn't interest me at all.
With Purdue's big guy out, that to me is kind of a toss-up. I agree. I as much as I love watching West Virginia play, I feel like they tank it.
Yeah.
Every now and then. It just that always makes me worry that they're going to get caught in the spotlight.
Yep.
Villanova will shoot them out of whatever defense they're running. It was I joked about the clash of clothing styles. If you aren't familiar with these two teams, Jay Wright is to the nines best dressed coach by far.
Yep.
Bob Huggins is not. Bob Huggins is really, and I'm not criticizing him. He dresses like I would dress as a coach. Like I'm all about the quarter zip, as he is. I prefer jeans over. He may too, over whatever khakis he wears. But there was some joke about would you ever get Jay Wright to wear a quarter zip or pullover, and he goes, "Well, I don't have any smalls." So Jay Wright's also fit. Bob Huggins is not. So
that's a nice way of putting that.
Yeah, Villanova is I think the only. No, I had Duke also. Villanova was my pick for the title game as well. So
okay,
I'm stick with them.
Yep.
And our favorite bracket right here in the Midwest in Omaha, the highest price ticket of all four. You have Kansas and Clemson, Syracuse and Duke. First off, this is a pretty cool coaching. I would love to be down there. I was really hoping they had open practice. They don't do open. I found out they don't do open practices for the Sweet 16. I would have loved to kind of been around, even though it's not really a full practice, but just to watch Jim Boeheim and Coach K. I mean, again, they're not going to do a whole lot, but I still think Duke comes out of it. I don't know that Kansas even wins on Friday night. We'll see, but Clemson, they beat Auburn by 31 points. And Auburn, I don't remember if they won the SEC. I think they were in the championship game, but Bruce Pearl, as much as I can't stand him, has really turned that program around. So that'll be an interesting game. But I think Duke, is just too good right now.
Yeah, see, I'll take Kansas. I had Kansas in the Final Four originally, and I'll stick with that. I think they're talented. They've got the big guy who I'm not even going to attempt to say his name. but
We,
just
we
coming
don't
back from injury. What's that?
we don't do that on this show. We don't stretch our.
I'm not gonna butcher that. I'm not gonna take a chance. I'm not a risk taker in that way. But he, gives them another dimension, and I really do like the way they're playing right now. And even though that game with Seton Hall was pretty darn close, I like Kansas. I'll take Kansas, but I would say Kansas Duke in the regional final in Omaha would be pretty cool.
Yeah, and I really, as much as I don't like Jim Boeheim, I've always loved watching Syracuse play. I love the 2-3 zone. I just love how it messes people up. Can they catch lightning in a bottle and knock Duke off? That I don't know.
Yeah, and they'll have the battle of the 2-3 zone, and that Duke plays all 2-3 zone this year too.
Yes, yeah. So I think that'll be a really interesting game. Syracuse. Michigan State was a little questionable at the end of the game, but Syracuse still beat them.
Right.
So yeah, it'll be a interesting weekend.
And you mentioned it. Can you believe how much tickets are going for?
I looked. So we were at the Creighton Xavier game. I paid $17 for last row seats.
Yeah.
The other day, those were $130. When I looked on Sunday night, the cheapest ticket on the NCAA's site was $240, and I paid $17.
Right. That's just crazy.
I was trying to think about this. So is there a game that you would pay that much money to go see? Like I was thinking, like my wife's like, well, I mean, you could go, and I'm like, if Nebraska was in the national championship game or maybe one of the playoff games, I can't even really justify it, but I might pay it for that. You think of a game that you would go to? What about what about Game 7 of the World Series in San Francisco? Would you pay $240 for a bleacher seat
to go to Game 7? I'm gonna say yes, but when it came down to actually buying the ticket, I might say no.
It's easy to say when your checkbook's not out and the Senate's not right in front of you.
If I actually had to lay down the money and do it, I don't know that I would. I want to say that I would because that sounds pretty cool. But man, that's a lot of money to go to one event. I think that people who have been to those events that I've talked to have said, "Boy, pretty cool."
Yeah.
To be in the arena, so to speak, as those events are taking place. So I suppose at this point, yeah, if it was Game 7 World Series, although there was certainly had a chance when the Giants were in the World Series against the Royals.
Yeah.
That's not that far of a drive, and I did not take the plunge and go down there.
Did you look up how much they were?
I did, but I don't even remember how much they were, to be honest.
I want to say that through a former athlete at Lewis Central, for one of the tickets for the Indians, I might be wrong on this. I want to say he paid $100 for standing room only, and he could have got $500 for it. He might have actually done that too.
Yeah,
he sold it for $500.
And see, and that's the thing with like tickets here. I know some folks who have Creighton season tickets who are able to buy the NCAA tournament tickets, and they did, and they're selling them because they can almost pay for pay for a good chunk of their Creighton season tickets by just selling their NCAA tournament tickets. And we even talked about it a little bit. We're like, boy, it'd be so cool to go, but how do you pass up?
Yeah.
We got 4 seats.
Right.
How do you pass up the money that you can make right now off of selling those tickets? And worst case scenario, if you don't get what you want for them, you go to the games.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So I don't know. I think I'd be hard pressed not to, or at least not to sell, one of the days or something.
Yeah.
To make that money. But
I thought I would look on Saturday to see if someone who loses is trying to sell them for cheaper. Typically, that's what we do for the College World Series. Is we'll wait until after the first weekend, and then we'll get on the NCAA's site, their buy-sell site, and get tickets for maybe a couple dollars more, but it's not astronomical, and that seems to work out pretty well. So I I doubt it'll be anything like that for this weekend, but I thought I'd at least take a look again.
Yeah. And it is pretty cool to have, again, like I said, have that round, those 2 rounds of games here in Omaha for the weekend. Omaha is such a good big event town.
Yep.
So whatever the big events are, whether it's the College World Series or the swim trials, or I mean, heck, the curling trials that happened recently,
Yep.
where people just come out in droves for that stuff in Omaha. So pretty cool to see that. I'm happy that it's here.
There was a really good article about in the World Herald. I think it was over the weekend, just about the Sweet 16 this year is L.A., Boston, Atlanta, and Omaha.
Yeah,
and just talking about just how well they have pulled off the College World Series for 50, 60 years now. All the events like you mentioned, they even like the international equestrian event that they had here.
Yep.
They are big time events, and we do go out and support those kind of things. And I think that's why ticket sales are so much higher. We're not there. There's also not a lot of other things to compete with like there is in some of those other cities. And so, I think that's kind of why it goes, but it is cool. I mean, I remember when they started to build the CenturyLink Center down there was a lot of concern as to whether or not it was even needed, and the amount of money that thing brings in for the economy and just what it's done to that downtown area. It's just amazing. I don't know if you read they're going to shut down one of the parking lots and build another hotel and some businesses on it, and then put up a parking garage on one of the other ones. There's been, since the CenturyLink's been there, they've added at least 6 new hotels that I can just think of off the top of my head, just within walking distance there.
Right down there. Yep.
It's just been a huge economy boom, and it's a fun place to go see a game. So.
I agree. To tie this back to education a little bit, we mentioned it earlier, and because I know that we both do some work with social media and with storytelling, and we talk about that UMBC account a little bit. What do you think? Is there anything to be gleaned from that for education accounts and people who coaches who run accounts and all those things with regards to just the way that they that UMBC account really kind of capitalized on where people are with social media right now?
Yeah, I always find it interesting. So I don't know how much we've talked about on here, but I run our school district's account because we don't have a communications department. I don't have a communications background. My communications background is like 10 years on Twitter. That's about it. It's very interesting to me when I follow another school district from our school district account. And I do that so that I can learn from them. Like, how are they presenting information? It's just kind of an easy way for me to do that. I'm amazed at the number who don't follow anybody or follow like 5 people.
Yeah.
I have really tried to follow like Council Bluffs related accounts.
Yeah.
The library, the city, police, I don't remember. We follow a few hundred people, including some of our teachers. I like to add a little bit of personality to it. And not all school districts do.
Right.
Some are a lot tighter around that. Great example. So today is World Down Syndrome Day. And so you're supposed to wear crazy socks. And it was a national thing to wear crazy socks. I'd kind of heard about it last night. One of our kids tweeted, "Hey, we want to wear crazy socks in honor of one of our students who is just beloved and has Down syndrome." So I retweeted it. And I said, "Hey, our students think we should do this. Let's do it." And very well received both on Twitter and on Facebook. One of our teachers tweeted a picture today of she's got sandals on and the fuzzy socks.
Sure.
And so I retweeted it, and we have a radio personality that lives in our district, and his kids go to our school, and he replies back, "Hey, we need to talk about rules for this." or something like that. And I responded back from the district account, hey, it's a quick change one. The sun's supposed to come out. You can go straight from warm socks to sandals. And
Right.
I like to put a little bit of personality in. I was reading through kind of some of what they had said. It might be a little bit farther than what I would go.
Yeah.
But I did think it was pretty funny.
Well, and I think that's just the point is, it's pretty easy to see plenty of accounts that simply share out what's happening, right?
Yeah.
Score of the game, what quarter we're in, we're making a comeback, whatever it is. What you don't always see is a little bit of personality. And, the fun that they had with Seth Davis, who, if you're not a college basketball fan, Seth Davis is a college basketball writer and reporter and personality. And his big thing is when a game is in hand, when it's over, he kind of tweets out Sharpie, the name of the school and Sharpie means it's over. And about 2 minutes into that game, he went ahead and said Sharpie, Virginia. And the back and forth with that UMBC account, the athletics account, and Seth Davis was just really fun. And it never got nasty. It never, it wasn't something that was mean spirited. It just kind of was fun, and to the point where Seth even then kind of made a comment on TV about it, and tweeted something about it later. I like that stuff. I like the little bit of back and forth. They then, I think, tweeted at the Kansas State athletics account, said something like, hey, you got anything going on tomorrow after, kind of, pimping them for the game the next day, which I think is just great. I think it's great to be able to see that to me is what these spaces are for, a little bit of fun, a little bit of sharing, make sure you're getting information out, reaching an audience. I just think, while maybe not perfect, I'm not saying that I would do exactly the way they did either, but boy, it sure seems to highlight why these are or can be good tools too.
Yeah, I agree. I think it is a lot of fun when you're able to interact, for a number of reasons. I even think about, we had a student that passed away here in the last couple of weeks. And, I've tried from our account, there's been a couple of students that have died in different school districts around here, and just, say, hey, thoughts are with you and all that. And, even your school district reached out to us, on Twitter and just said, thinking about you and, those types of things. So I think it is nice to have a little bit of back and forth. Well, another great example, Glenwood High School, which is a rival of ours, but we're in the same conference, won state basketball. Yep. And it's the first time they've won state basketball ever. Yep. And so, did a little shout out to them, congrats. And, and that's one of the things that I'm trying to work with, with our interns is, have a personality, never be degrading to each other. I think you can get away with a little bit more, and maybe get away is not the right word, but I think it's probably a little bit more valuable to have some of that personality when you are at college, because you are recruiting cross country. Sure. Our target audience is people that live in our county, because those are people that, in theory, either could go to our school or do go to our school or pay our taxes. So that's kind of who we're looking at. We don't really care what people in California think about us or Maryland for that matter. Right. But someone from Iowa could go to school at Maryland, Baltimore County. They have a wider reach and a wider audience than what we do. So it's fun. Sometimes those are few and far between. Takes the right personality to do it. But that's definitely a lot of fun to peek in on.
Yeah, no, I agree.
All right, so we have our. Do you want to pick a winner for because we will not be back till after the Final Four. I'm going to go Villanova.
Yeah, I am too.
I think that just their pedigree. I mean, and I wouldn't, if you'd not already put money down on the tournament, I wouldn't necessarily listen to me because, as I mentioned, my 5-year-old is beating me. But I think they have a really good team. I've watched them a couple times against Creighton, and just on the, it's not the Big East Network, I guess it's Fox Sports, but they're just Jay Wright does a phenomenal job of coaching. So
agreed. I'll go with Villanova also. I think they're the most talented team. I have liked watching Gonzaga play. I think that Kansas or Duke have an opportunity. But yeah, I think Villanova is the best team left.
Yeah. Well, sorry, Villanova, you'll be losing this weekend.
That's right.
But anyway. All right. Dad moment of the week. Trying to think of a good one. So if you've ever met me, you know that my teeth are not great. If you ever watch this, maybe you notice my teeth are not great. Hey, I got a beautiful wife, so they're good enough. No worries. I never got braces when I was a kid. I hated the dentist. Um, my parents weren't exactly millionaires, so I think my hatred of the dentist, probably they're just like, why would we put ourselves through this? So, my son got braces this week for the first time. And by all accounts, he rocked it like a champ, went back to the orthodontist all by himself, told me everything that happened with a smile on his face, was not terrified. Um, Definitely, I made a joke one time that we adopted well, and someone was like, "Oh, that's so sweet." And I was like, "Wait, never mind. He's actually mine. He just doesn't act like me."
Right.
So yeah, it's fun. There's been a couple moments lately. We went to the zoo a couple weeks ago, and they have a new kids area at the zoo. And he kind of said, "Yeah, this is fun, but yeah, I wish there was another level or something else." And so there's been a couple moments lately, that kind of hit you about getting older and growing up. So definitely him marching back to the back of the orthodontist to get braces on his teeth was one of those. So
Nice.
anyway, yep.
I will. We also, I think it's in a couple weeks here. Claire will have her braces, so they'll be brace buddies.
Well, so Maddox is 10.
Yeah.
And I was like, it seems a little early. And Kate's like, well, the orthodontist said if you do it now, then you might not have to do it later. And I said, or I pay twice.
Right.
Well, I mean, yeah, maybe, but maybe we'll have to do it later. I'm like, yeah, I'll probably pay twice. We'll just bet on that.
She just went, had her kind of molds and stuff, and she doesn't have them yet. She'll get them here in the next couple of weeks, but she's they also told her that she may have to wear this like headgear at home and stuff. So she's pretty
wow.
She's pretty bummed about that. But we said, it's going to be so great because we're going to be able to make fun of you at home, and it's going to be so much fun. And
I've resisted a lot of picking on Maddox. I've thought about it, and thankfully I've controlled myself.
My actual dad moment of the week will be I think it's even a holdover from last time. I think last time I talked about Grace getting her learner's permit, and
yep.
Since then, we are 2 weeks into driving. She drives just about every day, I think, at some point. And she's getting better and better.
Good.
It's one of those kind of scary things sometimes to be in the car and kind of turn it over to your 14-year-old. But we're lucky that she is, she's somebody who takes that stuff pretty seriously and pretty serious kid. So it's been really kind of fun actually to kind of teach her all the little things. I think what you'll find out when you start having a young driver with you in the car is all of those little things that you do when you drive that you take for granted, as kind of you do them subconsciously. They all come out into your conscience. You're talking about every little thing that you do, like how sharp your turn should be and how you pull into a parking space and, how you accelerate and brake and all those things that I think we just take for granted once you've been driving for years. They all become very apparent when you have a 14-year-old at the wheel.
Oh, I'm not looking forward to that. My son, I think, will be fine. But the girls.
Oh, and trust me, we're worried about Claire. I'm not sure Claire will ever want to be in the car with Claire, but but Grace is doing a phenomenal job.
Oh man! All right, no guests this evening, so we're going to jump right into sharing is caring. Shout out to former Dad's and Ed guest Kyle Pace for sharing this little tidbit today. YouTube has a new Go Live button built right within the YouTube browser where you no longer need any extra software to actually do it.
Nice.
So last May, we did a weekend live broadcast of the chicks that we were hatching in our first grade. And I had to go find some old laptops that I could put software on and take over the weekend. Now I can just use a Chromebook. And if you go into YouTube, into your account, there is a little camera button up in the top right-hand corner where you can either upload or go live. I kind of played around with it a little bit on my Chromebook. So I'm excited for that. It's going to make that project a lot easier. For those of you that are newer to the program, we actually do this through YouTube Live, but it's using a Google Hangout. And I did not see an option to have multiple accounts connected at the same time. So we could not use this for this show, which is fine. It's like just a one account at a time live button, which for the most part, most normal people, that's all they really need to do videos. So, but I'm excited about it for that. I think we probably a couple other things that we could use it for. But it's good to see them kind of jump in. You know, Facebook Live has been around for a while, and we've used that for a few things. So it's good to see the Video King catch up to Facebook.
Yeah, no kidding.
I will tweet that out to the DadsNet account here, or to the DadsNet hashtag.
Yeah, mine's going to be a book that I read recently, and it wasn't. I didn't read it and think, gosh, that's the best book I've ever read, but it was really interesting, and it's called. The book is called. I'll tweet out the link to it. Everybody Lies: Big Data, New Data, and What the Internet Can Tell Us About Who We Really Are. And the premise of the book is like being able to make predictions or draw conclusions based on internet data. So, what people are searching and how they're searching it and where they're searching it. What kinds of things they type into the search. It's just kind of a really cool, interesting book. Again, it's not the best book I've ever read, but boy, I left it thinking, that's really interesting. And you think then about, maybe I think more about everything that I search and how that data is being used. Just kind of an interesting book. So Everybody Lies is what it's called.
Good. Yeah, the whole data collection, especially now with Facebook and Cambridge Analytica, is pretty crazy. And Facebook, I don't know if you saw Zuckerberg's post today, but they're basically said, yeah, we screwed up.
Yeah.
We got to do better.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see how that goes.
Yeah, fascinating to see how that's gonna turn out.
I think all of this, like any of the social media, like any of that kind of stuff, is just amazing to watch and see how it pivots and how quickly some of that stuff can change. And it'll be interesting to see if it does really have an impact on Facebook. Everybody says, shut down your Facebook account. Well, how many people are really going to do it?
Right.
It's kind of like conferences. You complain about how much they cost, but people still go. So until they're not making money, they don't really care.
I totally agree.
So
totally agree. It's gonna be really, really interesting.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for this evening. In 2 weeks, we will have Nick Polyak. Did I say that right?
Yeah. Yep.
Polyak. All right. Principal. Correct, in Illinois?
Yeah, superintendent.
Ooh,
yeah.
That is something I need to get right before.
You'll want to know that when we talk to him.
Hopefully he's shut this off by now if he's doing research. So enjoy the start of the baseball season. Enjoy the rest of the Final Four. We will be with you before the Masters starts. So we'll pick a Masters winner before on our next show. So
absolutely.
All right, we'll see everybody in 2 weeks.